Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. Hello, good morning from Sydney, Australia. We have the amazing Stefan here with us. Stefan is the founder and principal of SMB Law. He has extensive experience acting in a broad range of continuous matters, including high-profile, high-risk disputes, commissions of inquiry, and insolvency matters. His practice has a particular focus on commercial and financial services industry clients. Stefan is a very pragmatic, delivery-focused lawyer who demonstrates a real commitment to his clients. His range of experience, network, and expertise ensures that he can provide a solution to the legal problems faced by his clients. He applies a commercial and strategic approach to litigating and protecting the rights of his clients. Love it. He is also the founder of SMB Law after a successful career working in national and boutique law firms. Last but not least, this international man, he has experience in the United Kingdom, the USA, Queensland, and New South Wales. Welcome, Stefan, and happy birthday. It is your birthday.
It is my birthday today.
Wow, I mean, you're 21 now, right?
Yeah, 21, absolutely.
Love it. You look great. Thanks for not making an excuse and still being here with us live.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. So, you spent 13 years at Bridges Lawyers from junior solicitor to senior associate. After 13 years, leaving isn't just changing jobs. It's really the magic 7. It's leaving a professional identity you've spent over a decade building. What actually made you pull the trigger to start your own law firm?
Well, it was the best professional decision I made. You had to make the decision at that point in your career as to whether or not you continue going down the partnership route and going down that pathway, or you take the risk and go out and do it on your own. And I sat down and had a look at my practice as it was then, and did the numbers and worked out that I'd take the risk and see how we went with SMB Law. And the aim in the first year was just sort of match my salary, and I was able to do that by multiples. So I was very, very pleased, and I've just sort of gone on from there, and it's built and grown over the years, and it's been a sort of great little adventure over the last 10 years, building up my own practice and firm. And like I said, the best professional decision I've made.
Amazing. You were admitted in New York. You worked in the UK, the US, Queensland, and New South Wales. That is a very unusual amount of legal globetrotting. Well done on that. What did each jurisdiction teach you about law, about business, and about people that the others couldn't?
Well, you just get a range of experience, and so there's a range of different workplaces, there's a range of different matters, there's obviously a range of different jurisdictions and local laws and regulations, but really the lawyer skills, particularly litigation lawyer skills, are almost universal. Being able to consume large amounts of information and distill them down to what's important and what's not important, to be able to talk to people and take statements, to understand what the issues are and what the likely outcomes are. Those are sort of universal skills no matter where you practice. And if you meet litigators from all over the world, and they all have that kind of same skill set and viewpoint that you can sort of identify. So they're very transferable, but then obviously the local jurisdiction, the local rules and so forth will have their own quirks. And then as anyone who's worked overseas will tell you, there's different work environments from Australia to the UK to the USA. So there's a big range of things for you to be able to experience, and all of that sort of makes you a better lawyer, I think, because the broader range of experience you get in terms of matters, businesses, jurisdiction. It gives you a more worldly view and makes you a little bit more experienced in being able to deal with the particular problem that's on your desk on the day.
Now, I don't know, have you watched the Netflix Suits?
Only a little bit. As a lawyer, everyone I meet tells me that I need to watch Suits or says that I remind them of this character or of that character. It's a universal thing. Other than brief little episodes, I haven't watched.
It's probably more common as a non-lawyer to watch it, and I mean, like in the US, it's like highly, like being a lawyer is highly reputable. Again, I lived in US, but I'm German, and I actually met like the actors Harvey Specter, and also Louis Litt. I mean, the real actors in the US, so only because of that I started watching it, and it was pretty good. You just mentioned that business cultures or the way business is done was very different. Do you have some hands-on examples? Because we have people from all around the world here. I'm an intercultural communication trainer myself, and especially comparing like UK, US, and Australia.
No, I think the biggest difference with Australia that people might notice when they come here is it's much more informal. You know, the workplace culture, the office culture is a much more informal type of place. You know, Sydney, although it's a big international city these days, it's still a relatively small place compared to other international locations like New York or London, of course. And so, you know, who you know and the networks are important, as they are everywhere, but particularly so in Sydney. And just the workplace culture is a lot more informal and a lot more relaxed, I suppose, is the way that I would put it. But the work is fundamentally the same. I mean, we're working in London. You know, people put in long hours. They do hard work. Because the nature of the matters that are going through London, for instance, they're much bigger teams. There's much bigger matters that are going through, and so you're part of a sort of bigger, broader team. But again, that depends on where you work and the matters you do.
Yeah, and in terms of like jurisdiction, what are some differences between like New South Wales, Queensland? I feel like there might be a lot of changes, although it's the same country.
Oh, the different jurisdictions. So each jurisdiction has its own, you know, set of civil procedural rules, for instance. Although there's a lot of commonality between those two now.
Okay.
And there's certain pieces of legislation that have become uniform or quite uniform. For instance, the law in relation to evidence and so forth is largely universal around Australia, although there are, of course, different jurisdictions. And so, you know, we can handle New South Wales matters, but you know, say from Victoria, there are different sets of procedures. And again, sometimes the local knowledge about networks and people can be useful. And so, you know, whenever I have a matter in Victoria or Queensland, I always make an assessment about whether or not I do it myself or refer it through someone, or do it with the assistance of a town agent. You know, you sort of make those calls depending on the matter and where it sits at the time.
Interesting. And he's mentioned several times network. I mean, that's something like being German, and Germans are not so good, I feel like. But like having lived in China for so many years, that's what you really learn, like those relationships. Let's move on to the next topic. So most people's goal in business is to never need a litigator.
Yes.
I mean, today's topic on the flyer, you may have seen it, when business goes to war, right? You've built your entire career on going to court. When did you first realize you didn't just tolerate conflict, but you actually thrived on it? And what does it say about you as a person?
I don't know what it says about me as a person.
Or maybe I should ask your wife, your partner.
Oh, look, I have always enjoyed competition. I've always enjoyed, you know, contest. I think that's the most interesting aspect of the law, you know, personally. Although there are, you know, many transactional lawyers that love what they do and provide great service, it's not really for me. I enjoy the more contentious side of things. What I enjoy particularly about litigation is getting to know your client, because typically a litigation matter might last, you know, a year or two, and so you get to really know your client, you get to really know their matter. If you litigate about different industries, which is what I do, then you get to know about the industry and learn particular products and so forth. So I find that very interesting. What does it say about me as a person? I suppose you just develop skills to be able to handle conflict and be able to deal with conflict. You know?
Right.
And look, a good litigator will not seek to go forward, will not seek to inflame or make the conflict worse or longer than it is, because you know any lawyer will tell you there's a huge amount of uncertainty in relation to the court outcomes and what you might expect. Every litigation lawyer has won cases they thought they would lose and lost cases they thought they would win. So it's an extremely unpredictable thing, and you have to advise your client about that uncertainty as you're going into the matter, and so that they're fully informed about the decisions that they make.
Yeah.
But look, you know, being a good litigator and having that network that we were talking about earlier, you can hopefully try and avoid going to court in the first place and solve it. And that, you not just knowledge of the law and those legal skills, but also being able to read people and being able to work out what a likely outcome might be. If I do A, what are they likely to do? And those sorts of skills really just help you and help your client hopefully avoid what is really the worst outcome of going to court and putting it in the judge's hands, really, the decision and outcome that you achieve is then placed in the hands of someone else, whereas, right up until that point, there's a capacity for you to be able to make decisions about the matter and the outcome.
Yeah.
Now, it's not always possible because it takes two people to reach an agreement. Sometimes you simply have no choice.
Right.
Sometimes you need to go to court, but it's an outcome that's best of all possible.
Mm-hmm. So big law firms have armies of lawyers, global networks, and brand names that alone can intimidate opposing counsel. When your client is in a high-stakes commercial dispute, sitting across from a team from a top-tier firm, how does SMB Law actually win? What do you have that they don't?
Personalised service, attention to detail. The law doesn't care whether or not your lawyer is from a big firm or a small firm. The decision is made based upon the evidence in the law. And, I always tell my staff as you train them and building them up that never be intimidated by a team from a big law firm. With many good lawyers in those firms, absolutely.
Yeah.
Many of them do absolutely fantastic work, but just because you've got a fancy letterhead doesn't mean that your client's going to win the matter or that they're on the right side of the dispute. And so you just carry on and do your job, and you make sure that you're giving your client the best opportunity and the best chance that they have in a litigation outcome. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So you've matched hundreds of business disputes from the inside.
Yes.
What patterns do you see in companies that get themselves into litigation in the first place? And is it most of it genuinely avoidable, or is it conflict that is just inevitable cost of doing business?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it depends upon what industry that you're in. There are some industries which are just inherently dispute prone. They're by the very nature of the industry or the other players that are in the industry. There tends to be a lot of disputes that arise. But if you're in an industry that is not sort of dispute prone, the people that tend to get themselves into litigation and disputes, they tend to be people who are quite ambitious in the things that they do and sort of take risks, and for them, taking that risk and pushing forward a dispute or a conflict is just a sort of necessary part of business, the cost of doing business, if you like.
Yeah.
For other people, it's perhaps a failure to attend to the little things, foresee the conflict that might arise, anticipate the dispute or problem which might arise, and then not deal with it until it becomes too late. They're able to tell you stories of a client who comes to them, and perhaps if they come a little bit earlier and got that legal advice and that little bit earlier stage, and they probably would have avoided the situation that they're in. But that's the nature of what we do, and that's what we're here to help.
Absolutely. So insolvency work puts you in the room when people's lives' work is collapsing.
Yes.
You're not just handling a legal file, but you're in a room with someone who may have lost everything.
Yes.
What does it do to a person over 15 years, and how do you separate it professionally from personally?
Look, I think the insolvency aspect of the practice, it often actually allows you to help people because when they come to you and they're facing an insolvency situation, they've often catastrophized into the worst possible outcome, and they're going to lose this, they're going to lose that, and then basically life is over. And so being able to put them into a little bit of a calm space about what their outcomes are and what their options are, you can often actually provide a lot of comfort and relief to people.
Oh yeah.
And that's not as bad as what they think it is, because there's lots of different options that they have, and insolvency is there, and you're able again just to help them. Now I act for both liquidators and directors, so I see sort of both sides of the coin. Again, insolvency is one of those things where the earlier that you can seek advice, the earlier that you can seek help, the greater range of outcomes that you have, the bigger options that are presented to you. If you leave it too late, with people very commonly very behaviour, it becomes a lot more difficult to help.
What would you say, and we have some live listeners right now, hello. What would you say is, for all the business owners out there, entrepreneurs, business owners, what do they need? What kind of advice do you have that hopefully they will never need someone like you or any other of your solicitor or like lawyer colleagues?
Seek help early, seek advice early. Whenever you're entering into a transaction or a dealing with someone, anticipate, well, what if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out in the way that we had hoped it would? Or what if this person doesn't do what they promised to do, for instance? Try and anticipate those things and think about what would I do in that scenario? And that's why, having that sort of lawyer skill, being able to try and anticipate what might happen in the future is a good thing for business people to have as well.
Yeah.
Look, record keeping as well, keeping good records about things that occurred and things that are said and so forth, helps particularly litigators later on. If you're litigating about a dispute that happened 2 years ago, the fact that someone's taken a contemporaneous note is an extremely useful thing very often. It'll be interesting to see how the growth of AI note-taking sort of helps that as we go forward. That will obviously slow that in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Is there any kind of prevention or so? I mean, we Germans, we're really into insurances.
Yeah.
I feel like it's German culture. We have an insurance for probably everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there some kind of other prevention we could do? Do we need like an insurance for, I don't know, lawyers? Like, I don't know.
Oh, look, insurance is always very advisable, but in terms of being able to avoid bad things and avoid things that are happening, just being risk. You almost see in any transaction that you're entering into. But you can't avoid bad things happening. That's just part of life and part of the business world.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
It's just there, and we're there to help if it all goes wrong.
Speaking of AI, I mean, it's a trending topic. We must talk about it. How do you utilize AI in your business nowadays?
Well, particularly in New South Wales at the moment, it's a little bit limited in the way that we can use it. So, for instance, if we're preparing an affidavit for court, you can't use AI to generate any part of the content or any part of the exhibit. And so,
But how would they know?
good question, and I'm sure that particularly lawyers have to sort of gatekeep to a certain extent the system because if their clients are using AI to generate statements or to generate material that they're putting before the lawyer, the lawyer's going to have to use their education experience to work out if this is in fact AI that's been putting before them. But in terms of how the court would know, I'm not a tech guy, but there are various ways that you can analyse script and so forth that's been put before to see whether or not it's been AI generated. And then there's obviously also there's a capacity to be able to compel the native file of particular documents and so forth to be put, and as I understand it, producing the native file and an IT analysis will reveal whether or not it's been generated by AI or not. But it's a very interesting area, how that's going to develop. I think the courts are going to have to eventually accept that there's going to be AI material that's been put before them and the like. That's just going to be part of the process moving forward. But particularly what I do in terms of litigation, I think we're a little bit quarantined from the AI takeover because when you think about it, are we comfortable with a computer making a decision for people in a court setting? We're probably not. And so if we're not comfortable with decision making being AI, then we can't really be comfortable with people making a solution for the court being AI or AI assisted to a great extent. So it's very interesting area of law to see how it develops. I think if you're a state lawyer or if you're a conveyancer, I'd be nervous about the role of AI, my job moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think the litigators particularly will be well, at least I have some.
Well, that is good to know that there's some hope because nowadays, just spoke to someone yesterday that I was interviewing, and this person got replaced. She was a virtual assistant, right? And her job got replaced 80% of the former employer with AI, right? So
it's an incredible tool. We're using it for legal research. There's various platforms that have AI programs built into them. They're fantastic at this. You can just ask a question. just takes you to the right area, really, which is extremely useful for time saving, because then you know, okay, I want to go do this, and it brings up an authority, and from there you can do your own research in
Yeah.
the old-fashioned way. But that sort of shortcut to where I'm doing it with look is very useful.
Mm-hmm. So just a few more questions about law and what your real job is, because there's so much more to explore about you, which is so interesting. Law has been one of the highest rates of burnout and mental health struggles of any profession. I remember when I worked at HP, being in corporate, we did talk about mental health and burnout a lot. When I became an entrepreneur 7.5 years ago, nobody would ever speak about it. So you've been in it for over 50 years across 3 countries, in some of the most adversarial legal environments that exist. What has this career actually cost you, and what keeps you in it?
Well, I don't like to think about what it's cost me. I like to think about what it's given me. It's given me a
Great mindset.
It's given me a good, interesting career. It's given me exposure to a lot of things that most people don't get to be exposed to. Sitting in court and watching judges do their work and conferring on different matters of contentious things. I think that's interesting, exciting. It's given me a sort of rich and interesting career and job environment. But I mean, it's true that litigation, particularly, is an extremely stressful area, and the capacity for burnout is definitely there. I think, in my experience, where you work is very important. So there are environments in the law that are not good environments, particularly for juniors who are coming through the ranks, and that is unfortunate and something that I don't like at all. You've got to create a nice environment for people that are learning and growing and developing in the industry, or otherwise they just leave. And the attrition rate for young lawyers is huge. I don't know the exact stats, but it's a huge number of people that sort of don't make it past the second, third year of practice and move on to do something else just because the burnout issue is real.
Yeah.
Look, I think in terms of just looking after yourself, you just exercise and all the usual advice that they give you and those sorts of things is very useful. Have interests outside the law. Don't get too consumed by it, and manage your time. Being organised so that you're not having to put in ridiculous hours. If you're having to stay till midnight every night, then there's something wrong with your practice. You need to get yourself organised. You need to get help. You need to give away matters perhaps, or just do things in a more efficient way.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in the office at midnight every night, then that's not good. It's not sustainable.
Hire trainers like me to help you on it. Time management, soft skills, leadership. You have a really cool project coming up, actually. Let's talk about this. So, what made you start a bar in Sydney now? I mean, I remember I spoke to lots of different people, and they were all like, the nightlife in Sydney used to be amazing years ago. And then they also tell me, like, clubs, bars, they're opening, they're closing. It happens quite fast, or maybe it stays a few years.
Yeah.
Why are you opening a bar now?
So I was looking around for just some side businesses, so going on websites looking for businesses for sale. I hadn't really seriously considered buying a bar, but this opportunity presented itself, which is it was previously trading as the Seals at 44 King Street, which is a basement bar, and I saw the opportunity, made some inquiries, and decided to go ahead and take the opportunity. So we're hopefully getting the keys very soon, and then rebranding and restyling the space, make it a bit more a cool place to be, and opening hopefully late June, and trade under the name Congo, and join the ranks of a lot of other small bars in Sydney. And the reason I particularly took up this opportunity is because the various authorities are really into promoting the nighttime economy. So there's lots of different programs and lots of different incentives now to really revitalise and rejuvenate that nightlife.
Oh, so there's government programs that are supporting this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
We're
wow.
sort of a flag district, so it's got a special precinct which they're really trying to invest in the nighttime economy and get it up and running. So the fact that we're right bang in the Sydney CBD, we're right bang in the centre of a particular district which is going to have a special focus, you're never going to make a real go of it. You know, it's probably a little bit of a risky venue compared to, say, the law, but, you know, there's no fun without risk.
Yes, no pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
So we have a comment here from the Philippines. Hi, really enjoyed this discussion. What practical advice would you give to business owners using AI, especially when it comes to legal risks and protecting their business? What a great question.
It is a very good question. So I think, particularly if you're using, say, a note-taking tool, there's a temptation just to click the button and let the AI generate the note for you, and then not conduct any review of it. You know, say when you finish a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or whatever it may be, you click the button and the summary's there. Take the time to read through the summary. Take the time to make sure that it's actually accurate and correct. And perhaps make a little note that you've done so as well. You know, just the top of the note, review by whoever's reviewing it. Just creates a greater strength to that record later on. If you have to talk to someone like me and litigate about the note 2 years down the track, the fact that you've taken the time to review it and confirm its accuracy will go, I think, a long way to shoring up that note. We could talk about you know, the law giving you know, how the courts will give special weight to a contemporaneous note, a note or record that is made at around about the time of the discussion has a lot more weight than someone's recollection 2 years down the track, or a note that they made 2 years down the track trying to remember what was said. So if you're using AI to generate note taking, I think that's a very good little tip. Otherwise, just be very careful about having AI generate an agreement for you. You know, it's good, but it's certainly not perfect. In fact, it's far from perfect, and it makes mistakes. The other thing I would say in relation to AI, there's a temptation, and we're seeing that more and more, of people attempting to do it themselves with litigation and with disputes. And so, you know, I have, and I'm sure that every other litigator in town has, started receiving sort of, you know, lengthy letters that are drafted by unrepresented parties that have clearly been written by AI. That they often, it's immediately apparent that they're written by AI. AI sometimes invents things, and so it will say it will invent an authority, it will invent a case, it will invent a section, and it's extremely embarrassing for a person involved who sent that letter to have relied upon, you know, an authority that, when you look it up, doesn't in fact exist. You know, so it's a very useful tool, but do not rely on it, not yet anyway.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'm about to file something with NCAT. So learning about like rental laws here, and with my AI lawyer.
I would caution you strongly against relying upon the AI, and I would advise you get some legal advice.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. So we have a few last questions for you. I know it's your birthday, you made it here, which we're all very, very happy. What's the matter you got strategically wrong? Not ethically, but in terms of your approach or judgment that you've never really spoken about, and what did it permanently change about how you practice?
It's a really good question. Something that I'm not actually sort of seriously sat down and thought about. Look, I honestly can't sit down and think about a matter that I think that I've strategically got it wrong, or that I've sort of taken a fundamentally wrong approach in relation to it. I mean, as I said earlier, it's an extremely unpredictable area, you know, so it's a very difficult thing to predict how the court will decide a particular matter. And that there can be aspects of the case that you don't think has particular importance or significance, but turns out to actually have significant importance down the track. And that can be the case that no one really thought this has great significance, but it does. And so, you know, as you get more experience in law, as you develop and grow your skills, being able to have that skill of sitting back and thinking about your own case in as objective a way as you can to identify areas where there's weakness and where there is a problem is a real skill that you have to develop as a lawyer.
Yeah.
I can't think of a particular example as we sit here. I like to think that I get most things right. But yeah, you have to sort of sit and objectively sit back and review and think, well, okay, should have done this one there.
Now, let's look a little bit of like a different part of your life. I think you mentioned this is your first podcast interview, right?
It's my first podcast. Yes.
So what do you guys think? How well is he doing? Send me a message in the comments, but I think you are like a natural. So you also have 2 kids, right? 21, 10 years old.
Turning 21, turning 10. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you manage life of running your own business, having a family, having a happy and successful life?
Work-life balance question. I mean, you just make time, don't you? You prioritise the things that are important to you. Look, owning my own practice and being my own boss has helped immensely, I think. If you're working for someone else and you don't have the flexibility in terms of your hours, it can make it a lot more challenging. But even then, if you do have that scenario, then you can just make the time to prioritise certain things. And, it may be where you just set aside an hour or two in the evening to spend time with your kids and do family things. I think, for me personally, I think trying to do new things, trying to always find a new thing that you're interested in is a great benefit to you and the kids. Like for instance, like indoor climbing, and you might try a new sport or a new thing that you can do. And living in a city like Sydney, there's plenty of those activities out there that you can do, and so you just make the time to look into and pursue those kinds of interests and involve your kids in that. So it just makes much more enjoyable type of life.
Yeah.
Not be afraid to take some time out and do things for yourself and do things for your family.
Beautiful. I think that's something we can definitely also learn from Australians. The work-life balance part in Sydney has an amazing life here to offer. Yep. And so an even better nightlife, thanks to you and others.
The best part of the world is going to be here in Sydney.
Absolutely. So what has been the best advice you've ever received as, like for life or business?
Very good question. There's been several pieces of advice that I've received through the years. One that sticks out is just enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
What's the point if you're not having fun along the way? Be kind, be open, enjoy the ride.
Have you ever invested in a coach, a mentor, a therapist?
No, never have.
And what would be your advice? Let's say, like, for anybody who wants to start or make the change from being employed by a big law firm and starting their own practice. And this could be specifically for law in Australia, somewhere else, or it could be for any kind of other business. Because at the end, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. What would be your advice? Because it seems like, especially like you wanted to achieve like the same amount of money like as your salary before, but within a couple of months you actually overachieved it in many ways.
That's right. Look, I think being happy to take risks. I think particularly if you're looking at like professional services or you're looking at advisory or something like that, keep it in perspective. The risk that you're taking is not a huge capital outlay in most cases. If you're opening a factory and you're manufacturing something, you're borrowing X amount of dollars from the bank and you have to sign up everyone to a personal guarantee and those sort of things. Those are the sort of real risks that people take in setting up businesses. If you're going out as your own lawyer or professional advisor or whatever it may be, the sort of level of risk doesn't compare to that kind of level of risk. But in any endeavour that you do, it's, accepting that risk, thinking about what your worst case outcome is and what you would do in that scenario is a useful way to think about it. And I think it's a useful way to think about, getting it into perspective. For me, when I'm at my the worst case scenario for me was to have to go back and get a job with my talent. That was really sort of the worst case, and I have to deal with a little bit of debt or whatever it may be, but nothing major. That's not a bad worst case outcome. I can live with that. I think making money and being successful is great, isn't it, Brian? It's fantastic, but I get too attached to it. I could be perfectly happy. Driving a forklift, living in a modest house somewhere. As long as I've got my kids and my friends, then I'm happy.
Beautiful. And if you had to start all over again, like you lost everything, for example, what would your 30-day plan the first 30 days in your business look like?
That's a good question.
Putting you on the spot here.
I would contact as many people in my network as possible, and I would reach out as much as possible to people around me and the network that I have to try and pursue opportunities. And I think that there's, most people have a network of people that if they talk to and reach out to, will be able to offer all sorts of assistance, all sorts of opportunities that they might not have been aware to. Being open to opportunity, being open to new things that they haven't previously considered is vital in business all the way through, particularly say in that first 30 days, reaching out to all the people that I know, exploring opportunities.
Beautiful. And again, like he was talking about in the beginning, you were a lot speaking about relationships, network, and again, be open for opportunities, use that network. These people also know someone. All right, thank you so much for making time. I think it's time for your birthday that you can also enjoy a little bit of the rest of the day, hopefully not only working.
Yes.
Do you have something special planned?
No, I've got a little bit more work to do this afternoon, and then my family's just making me some cake, and we'll do the usual family thing at home.
Ooh, what's the usual family thing at home?
We'll just have some nice dinner and have some cake, and we'll sing me a song.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making time, Stefan. Guys, if you love today's session, sharing is caring. Send it to your friends. There might be someone who needs to hear it. Please subscribe and like as well. Send us comments. Follow Stefan. We're going to put his social media, for example, his LinkedIn in the description as well. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow's going to be a very interesting one with my friend Vishal. We're going to speak about success and why some people are actually not successful. He is like really good at like IT, sales, and real estate, but we're going to talk about tantra and other kind of things. Yes, you heard right. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. And Stefan, have an amazing birthday today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Bye, guys. Wrong button. It's the end stream button.